The sound of cups clinking, the smell of roasted coffee, and sunlight pouring through the tall glass windows of Cafe Larico, a quiet spot on the Sicilian coast. It was a peaceful day. Too peaceful. Lucia wiped down the counter with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. 22 years old, with tired hands and hopeful dreams, she had worked here for almost 2 years. To her, every customer had a story, some told with laughter, some hidden behind silence. But she had no idea that the man who was about to sit at table 7 carried a story that began long before she was even born. That morning, everything felt normal, until the black Mercedes stopped outside. The cafe door opened with a faint chime. A tall man stepped in, dressed in a sharp gray suit. His shoes made no sound, but somehow, every eye turned toward him. 2 men followed, bodyguards, clearly. Broad shoulders, dark sunglasses, and the kind of presence that said, "Don't ask questions." Lucia froze for half a second. The manager, Franco, quickly leaned toward her and whispered under his breath, "Franco, table 7. That's his table. And listen carefully. Lucia, don't mess this up. That man, he's not like the others." Lucia blinked. "Who is he?" Franco didn't answer directly. He just muttered, "Just call him Signor Morelli and don't look him in the eyes too long." Her heart started to race. Signor Morelli. The name she'd heard whispered in late-night stories. The man who ruled half the southern ports but never raised his voice. A name wrapped in silence, respect, and fear. Lucia smoothed her apron and walked to table 7, tray in hand. The daylight caught her face, warm, nervous, but kind. The man at the table, Don Matteo Morelli, in his mid-40s, was already seated, staring at the ocean through the window. His hair slightly grayed at the temples, his expression unreadable. He didn't look dangerous at first glance. But there was something in his stillness, the kind that came from years of surviving. Lucia placed a glass of water before him. Lucia softly, "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get you today?" Matteo without looking at her. "An espresso." Strong. His voice was deep, steady, almost gentle, but it carried weight, like a hidden storm. Lucia nodded and walked away quickly, pretending not to notice how her hands trembled slightly. She told herself it was just another customer, just another cup of coffee. But something inside her felt strange. While waiting for the espresso, she peeked again at table 7. The man wasn't on his phone, wasn't speaking to his guards. He was simply tracing something on the table with his finger, an absent gesture, slow and thoughtful. Then, as he reached for his glass of water, his sleeve lifted. Lucia froze. There it was. A tattoo, small, faded blue ink, barely visible under the sunlight. A swallow carrying a rose wrapped in thorns. Her breath caught in her throat. Her eyes widened, because she had seen that tattoo before. Every morning, when her mother rolled up her sleeve to wash dishes, she saw the same mark, same shape, same place, same color. For years, her mother refused to explain it. Whenever Lucia asked, she'd just smile sadly and say, "Some things are better left forgotten, tesoro." But now, here it was, on his wrist. Lucia's chest tightened. The cafe noise faded. Plates clattering, people chatting, all gone. It felt like she was alone in the world, standing under a spotlight of fate. Her instincts screamed, "Don't say anything." But her heart whispered, "Ask. You need to know." She walked back with his espresso, her voice trembling just slightly. Lucia softly, "Here you go, sir." Matteo looked up for the first time, his eyes dark, tired, but piercing. And for a second, Lucia forgot how to breathe. Lucia hesitating. Nervous smile. Sir, I hope this doesn't sound strange, but my mother. She has a tattoo just like yours." The moment the words left her mouth, the entire cafe changed. A fork clattered onto a plate in the background. One of the guards straightened immediately. The soft hum of chatter went dead silent. Matteo's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in something deeper. Recognition. Fear. Shock. He didn't blink, didn't move, just stared at her hand, where she had unconsciously pointed to his wrist. Matteo low, almost whispering, "What did you just say?" Lucia felt heat rush to her face. I said my mother has the same tattoo. Right here." She pointed to her forearm shyly. Matteo's fingers trembled. He reached for his sleeve and covered the mark instantly. His gaze dropped to the table. "Matteo, your mother. What is her name?" "Lucia." "Rosa. Rosa Veri." His head lifted slowly. His expression changed, shock first, then disbelief, then something else. Something like pain. For a man known across Sicily for never showing emotion, that moment cracked him open like glass. Matteo softly, in disbelief. Rosa Viri? Lucia nervous. Why, yes. Do you know her? Matteo didn't answer. He just leaned back, his eyes unfocused, lost somewhere far away. His bodyguards exchanged uneasy looks. Lucia stood there awkwardly, regretting she ever spoke. Lucia. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to be rude. It just surprised me, that's all. Matteo interrupting quietly. How old are you? Lucia. 22. Matteo exhaled, slow and heavy, as if 22 years of air left his lungs all at once. 22 years. That number hit him like a bullet. He pushed the espresso away, untouched. His voice lowered, trembling slightly now. Matteo, does your mother still live in Palermo? Lucia. No. We moved here when I was a child. She said she wanted a quiet life. A faint smile appeared on his lips, sad, broken. He whispered something under his breath in Sicilian, words Lucia couldn't quite understand. Then, without warning, he stood up. His chair scraped the floor, a sharp sound that cut through the silence. Every customer in the cafe turned their heads. Matteo's eyes locked onto Lucia's again. Matteo calm but cold. Lucia. You said your mother's name is Rosa Viri. Are you sure? Lucia nodded, confused and frightened. Yes, of course. Why? He stared for a long time, then murmured almost to himself. Because Rosa Viri is supposed to be dead. Lucia's stomach dropped. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Lucia. What? What did you just say? But Matteo didn't answer. His jaw tightened, his hand trembling as he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small silver coin, old, scratched, with the same swallow and rose engraved on one side, and held it out to her. Matteo soft, tense. You shouldn't have said that. Not here. Not where people can hear. Lucia confused whisper. I don't understand. He looked around. His guards were tense now, watching the windows. Matteo leaned in close, his voice low, almost protective. Matteo. Lucia, listen to me. Don't talk about your mother to anyone. Not even to your friends. Do you understand? Lucia's heart pounded. Why? What's happening? He straightened, his expression unreadable again, the mask of the Mafia king sliding back into place. Matteo. Because some people would kill to hear that name again. The cafe air turned heavy. Even the sunlight seemed colder. Lucia took a step back, her tray shaking in her hands. Lucia. Who are you? Matteo looked down at his untouched espresso, then back up at her, eyes filled with something she couldn't name. Matteo. Someone who made a promise. A long time ago. He reached for his coat, ready to leave. But just before he turned toward the door, he stopped and looked at her one last time. Matteo quietly. Tell your mother. Don Matteo Morelli remembers. Lucia stood frozen as he walked out, the doorbell chiming behind him. Outside, the sunlight hit his black car as it pulled away slowly down the street. Her mind spun, her mother's tattoo, his reaction. That strange coin in her hand. She looked down at it, the swallow and rose symbol shining faintly in the light. Lucia didn't know it yet. But that one sentence, that one moment of curiosity, had just opened a door that had been locked for 22 years. And now, the past was coming for her. The cafe had returned to its usual rhythm, clinking cups, laughter, chatter, but Lucia couldn't hear any of it. She stood behind the counter, staring at the small silver coin in her palm. The engraved swallow and rose shimmered faintly in the fading sunlight, as if mocking her confusion. Her heart hadn't stopped racing since the man left. Don Matteo Morelli. The name repeated in her head like an echo that wouldn't fade. He'd looked terrified when she mentioned her mother. Terrified, not angry. And the words he'd left behind. Tell your mother. Don Matteo Morelli remembers. Remembered what? Sometimes a single name can wake the ghosts of a whole lifetime. And Lucia had just whispered the wrong one. Lucia's coworker, Marco, waved a hand in front of her face. Marco? Hey, Earth to Lucia. You okay? You look like you saw a ghost. Lucia faint smile. Maybe I did. She slipped the coin into her apron pocket, still shaken. Marco. That guy, table 7, he's some big deal, right? The boss told me not to even look at him. Lucia. Yeah, something like that. She didn't want to talk about it anymore. Every time she thought of his face, the weight of his stare, a chill ran through her. She finished her shift in silence. But her thoughts wouldn't rest. By the time she left the cafe and stepped into the fading sunlight, the harbor breeze felt colder than usual. Her mother, Rosa, was setting the table when Lucia entered. The smell of tomato sauce filled the small kitchen. Rosa smiling. "You're late again. Busy day?" Lucia hesitant. "Something like that." She sat down, watching her mother's hands. The same gentle hands that had raised her alone. The same wrist that always carried that tattoo. Today, for the first time, Lucia couldn't look at it the same way. Lucia carefully. "Mama, that tattoo you have, the swallow with the rose. What does it mean?" Rosa froze for a second, her spoon hovering over the pot. Then she forced a small smile. "Rosa, it's nothing, tesoro. Just a memory from long ago." Lucia, a memory of who? The question came out sharper than she meant it to. Rosa turned, her eyes softening. "Rosa, why are you asking me that tonight?" Lucia hesitated. Should she tell her? Would it be crazy to say she met a mafia boss with the same mark? "Lucia, no reason. I just saw something that reminded me of it." Her mother studied her face for a moment, longer than usual, then looked away. Rosa quietly. "Some memories are better left buried, Lucia. But the thing about buried memories is that they don't stay buried when someone else starts digging." That night, Lucia lay in bed, the silver coin resting on her nightstand. She couldn't sleep. The wind whispered outside her window, and somewhere in the distance, she thought she heard the sound of a car engine. Low, steady, lingering. Her stomach tightened. She peered through the curtain, nothing but the streetlight flickering near the corner. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Finally, near midnight, exhaustion pulled her into a restless sleep. Lucia arrived early. The sea was calm, the town quiet. She thought maybe she'd imagined everything. The tension, the fear, the strange man's trembling hands. Until she saw the black Mercedes parked across the street again. Her pulse spiked. She stepped inside the cafe, pretending not to notice. But as she set the tables, she could feel eyes on her through the window. 10 minutes later, a man entered. Not Don Mateo, but one of the men who had stood beside him yesterday. Tall, clean-shaven, polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. He approached the counter slowly. "Bodyguard." "Lucia Viri?" Lucia nervous. "Yes?" "Bodyguard. Signor Morelli requests a word." "Just a few minutes." Lucia's hands went cold. "Lucia, I'm working." "Bodyguard." He said, "It's important. For your safety." The way he said that last part made her stop breathing for a second. Franco, the manager, stepped in nervously. "Franco." "Lucia, go. I'll handle things here." She looked at him, wide-eyed. "You know who he is, don't you?" Franco just sighed. "Franco, I know enough to tell you not to make him wait." The sunlight poured over cracked bricks and scattered leaves. Lucia stepped outside, her heart pounding in her chest. Don Mateo stood there, leaning against the black car. No guards this time, just him. He looked older in the daylight, tired. But when he saw her, he straightened immediately. Mateo calmly. "You came. Thank you." "Lucia, you didn't really give me a choice." A small smirk appeared on his face. "Mateo, fair enough." Then his tone changed, low, heavy. "Mateo." "Lucia. Yesterday, when you said your mother's name, I wasn't sure if I heard you right. Say it again." "Lucia." "Rosa. Rosa Viri." He exhaled deeply, as if that name alone carried the weight of decades. He turned away for a moment, staring at the sea in the distance. Mateo softly. "Rosa Viri. I thought she died 22 years ago." Lucia frowned. "What do you mean?" "Mateo. Back then, I was a different man. I worked for people who didn't forgive mistakes. Or love." "Lucia, love?" Mateo nods. "Your mother and I. We met when I was wounded. She saved me. We shouldn't have fallen for each other, but we did. She used to tell me I had a soul I didn't believe in." Lucia's heart skipped. Her mother. "And this man?" "Lucia, you're saying you." Mateo interrupting. "I'm saying I would have given up everything for her. But when she disappeared, I was told she was dead. And if she was dead, so was the part of me that cared about anything." Lucia's mind swirled. None of this could be real. Her mother, a quiet housekeeper with a small apartment and no secrets? How could she have been part of this world? Lucia in disbelief. "You can't be serious." "My mother wouldn't, she's not." "Mateo. She was more courageous than you know." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an old photograph, worn, folded. It was her mother. Younger, smiling, eyes bright, the same tattoo visible on her wrist. Lucia's breath caught. There was no denying it. Lucia whispering, That's, that's her. Mateo. I kept this picture for 20 years because I never stopped wondering if she was still alive. Sometimes the truth doesn't come gently. Sometimes it hits you with the force of every lie you were ever told. Lucia's throat tightened. Lucia, why didn't you try to find her? Mateo. I did, but the people I worked for back then, they made sure I never could. They said she was gone, and if I searched again, they'd make sure I joined her. He turned back to her, eyes intense. Mateo, Lucia, I need to know. Does she know I'm alive? Lucia shook her head slowly. Lucia, she never mentioned you. Ever. Matteo's expression hardened, not angry, but heartbroken. Then, the sound of a car engine echoed from the street. Matteo's body tensed immediately. His hand brushed against the inside of his jacket, instinctive. A black sedan parked at the corner, tinted windows reflecting sunlight. Matteo low. Get inside. No. Lucia? Why? Who are they? Matteo. My past. He grabbed her wrist gently but firmly, pulling her behind the car. The sedan's door opened slowly. A man stepped out, wearing dark glasses, holding a phone. Matteo whispered, Stay low. Lucia's pulse thundered in her ears. The man looked around, scanning the street. Then his gaze locked on Matteo. He spoke into the phone, nodded once, and got back into the car. The sedan pulled away, but not before Lucia noticed something. The license plate, the same one that had been parked outside her apartment last night. Her stomach turned cold. Lucia trembling. They were outside my home, watching me. Matteo. Then it's already started. Lucia. What started? Matteo. The hunt. Someone knows you spoke to me. And in that moment, Lucia realized whatever had haunted her mother's past wasn't finished. It had just found her. Matteo pulled a card from his pocket and pressed it into her hand. Matteo. Go home. Don't tell your mother anything yet. If anyone asks, you never saw me. And if anything strange happens, call that number. Lucia. Who are these people? Why would they? Matteo interrupting. Because you're her daughter, and they'll do anything to erase the truth about what happened to Rosaviri. Lucia's voice shook. Lucia, I don't even know what that truth is. Matteo. You will. Soon. But first, stay alive. He looked at her for a long moment, a look filled with something she couldn't define. Regret, love, fear, all at once. Then he opened the car door and got in. Matteo, we'll speak again, Lucia. I promise. The black Mercedes rolled away, disappearing into the afternoon sun. Lucia stood there for a long moment, heart pounding, fingers gripping the photograph he'd left behind. Her mother's smiling face stared up at her, frozen in time. The silver coin in her pocket felt heavier now, like it carried a truth too dangerous to hold. She looked down the empty street, then back at the cafe. Somewhere deep inside, she knew her life had just split into two. The world she thought she knew, and the one her mother tried to bury. When Lucia walked through the door that night, her mother was waiting at the table, quiet, tense. Rosa softly, You met someone today, didn't you? Lucia froze. What? Rosa, your eyes. You look like me the day I stopped believing in peace. Lucia's voice trembled. Lucia, Mama. Who is Don Matteo Morelli? Rosa's face went pale. The wooden spoon in her hand dropped to the floor. The silence that followed felt like a wound reopening after decades. Rosa barely whispering, You said his name? Lucia. He found me, Mama. He said he thought you were dead. Rosa backed away slowly, shaking her head. Rosa. Lucia. What have you done? Lucia's confusion turned to fear. Lucia. Mama, please. Rosa grabbed her by the shoulders, voice trembling. Rosa. You don't understand. If he's looking for us, others will be too. You've just told them we are still alive. Lucia's eyes filled with tears. Lucia. Who? Who are they? Rosa didn't answer. She just turned to the window. And there, across the street, under the lamppost, a man stood watching the apartment. Lucia gasped. Rosa whispered, her voice breaking. Rosa. It's too late. They've already found us. In a single heartbeat, everything changed. The woman who once told Lucia to forget the past now looked terrified of it returning. Lucia's breath shook. Lucia. Mama, who are they? What do they want? Rosa turned to her, eyes filled with tears. Rosa, they want the truth buried. Forever. And they'll start with you. Lucia turns toward the door. A soft knock echoes. Once, twice, both women freeze. And as the sun set over Sicily that night, the ghosts of the past finally knocked on their door. By the time the cafe began to close, the warmth of daylight had turned soft and golden, but inside the air felt different, like something sacred or dangerous had just been disturbed. Sophia stood by the counter, still shaken by what she'd seen in the man's eyes. He'd left a generous tip. Yet there was no peace in that gesture, only silence and questions. Sophia's friend and co-worker, Luca, leaned in with a frown. Who was that guy, Sophia? He looked like trouble. The whole cafe froze when he walked in. Sophia forced a laugh, but her fingers trembled as she wiped the table. I don't know. He said nothing. But when he looked at me, I swear he knew something. Luca shook his head. That's not someone you talk to again. He lowered his voice, almost to a whisper. Some say men like him. Don't forget faces, especially when they look like ghosts from their past. Those words hit her like a cold breeze. She didn't understand why, but deep inside, she felt tied to that man somehow. She placed her apron on the hook and opened the drawer where she kept her mother's things. Old letters, a rosary, a faded photograph of her mom smiling under the Sicilian sun. And there, just barely visible under her sleeve, was the same tattoo, a single blue lily, drawn in delicate ink on her mother's arm. Sophia whispered, Mama, why didn't you ever tell me about this? She turned the photo over. A name was scribbled on the back, in trembling handwriting. Leonardo. Her heart stopped. That was the same name the man at table 7 had whispered to himself before leaving. The name that made his hand shake around his cup. Coincidence? Or fate reaching back through time? The next day, the rain came early. Sophia's shift was quiet, only a few regulars, no music, no laughter. But just as she began to relax, a black car stopped outside. Its engine purred low, expensive, foreign. And when the door opened, her breath caught. It was him, the man from yesterday, Leonardo. His eyes met hers, calm but unreadable. He sat at the same table, table 7, without saying a word. No one else dared approach. Her manager whispered, Sophia, let Marco serve him today. But Sophia shook her head. No, it's fine. I'll go. She approached slowly, every step echoing louder than it should. Sophia softly, you came back. Leonardo without looking up. I had questions. She swallowed. So do I. He finally raised his eyes, dark, sharp, yet somehow pained. What did you say yesterday? About your mother? Sophia hesitated. She had a tattoo, just like yours. He froze. His hand twitched, then slowly turned over his wrist. The same blue lily. He whispered something under his breath, barely audible. Lucia. Sophia blinked. You know her name? Leonardo looked up, his expression breaking for the first time. Yes, I knew her. He paused, voice cracking. She saved my life once. The cafe's air seemed to still. Even the rain outside felt like it was holding its breath. Leonardo leaned back, his eyes distant. It was a long time ago. Palermo. There was a fire. A betrayal. He clenched his jaw. She was there that night. Sophia's hands shook. My mother never spoke about her past. She said Sicily took too much from her. Leonardo nodded slowly. It did. From both of us. He looked at her again, softer now. You have her eyes. Tears welled in Sophia's. What happened to her? Why did she leave? But before he could answer, a loud thud outside interrupted them. A car door slammed. Voices rose, angry, muffled. Leonardo's expression shifted instantly, from sorrow to ice-cold alertness. He stood abruptly. Go to the back, Sophia. Now. What? Why? Do it. The fear in his voice was not anger, it was protection. 2 men in dark coats entered the cafe. Their eyes scanned the room like predators searching for scent. Sophia ducked behind the counter, peeking just enough to see. The taller one called out, Leonardo Marino. The boss wants a word. Leonardo didn't move. He just sighed, as if tired of running from the ghosts that always found him. Tell your boss, he said quietly. I buried that life years ago. The man sneered. Then why are you still alive? Sophia's heart pounded. She didn't understand what was happening, But she knew this wasn't random. Leonardo turned his head slightly, just enough to meet her eyes through the reflection in the glass. "Stay hidden," he mouthed. Then he stepped forward. The cafe went silent as a gun glinted under the stranger's coat. Luca froze near the espresso machine. The customers whispered and slipped out quietly. Leonardo kept his voice low. "Not here. Not in front of them." But one of the men smirked. "You don't make the rules anymore, old manual." In that second, Sophia's courage snapped. She stepped out from behind the counter, shaking but defiant. "Stop! You can't." The man's gun swung toward her. Leonardo moved instantly, shoving the weapon aside. A struggle broke out. A plate shattered. Screams filled the cafe. And as one of the men stumbled back, Leonardo grabbed his wrist and slammed it against the table. The tattoo on his forearm flashed again. The blue lily, bleeding under the flicker of fluorescent light. Then the men fled, disappearing into the rain. Sophia trembled, gripping the counter. "Who are you?" she whispered. Leonardo caught his breath, looked at her, and this time, there was no hiding. "I was the man your mother saved and the man who destroyed everything she loved." Sophia stared, frozen, her lips parted. But no sound came. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Not here. Not tonight." He took out a small folded paper and placed it on the counter. It was old, faded, and had a photograph of a woman with a scar under her eye, her mother. "Find this woman," he said. "She holds the rest of the truth." Sophia frowned. "But that's her. That's my mother." Leonardo's expression darkened. "No, that's someone who became her." She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the sound of sirens grew near. Leonardo looked toward the door, then back at her. "Tell no one about me. Not yet. They'll come for you next." And before she could stop him, he vanished through the side alley, disappearing into the misty Sicilian rain. That night, Sophia stood alone in the cafe, the paper trembling in her hand. The ink ran as raindrops fell on it. But one thing remained clear. The name scrawled beneath the picture. Lucia De Luca, the woman with the scar. Her mother's real name. And suddenly, Sophia realized she had no idea who her mother really was, or what kind of past she was about to uncover. Sometimes the people we think we know best carry secrets darker than we can imagine. And sometimes, those secrets don't stay buried. That night, sleep never came. Sophia lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the sound of the rain echoing the same question through her mind. Who was her mother, really? And what secret was hidden behind that photograph Leonardo left behind? The woman in the picture looked exactly like her mother. Same eyes, same soft smile. But something was different. A faint scar beneath her left eye. A sadness in her expression. And that name written beneath the image. Lucia De Luca. Her mother's real name. Not Maria Rossi, the name she had used all her life. Sophia arrived early, earlier than she ever had. She moved through the empty cafe like a ghost, every chair, every table, still carrying the echoes of yesterday's chaos. The floor bore faint traces of shattered glass. The scent of gunpowder still lingered beneath the aroma of coffee beans. Luca entered moments later, nervously checking the door. "They said the police are asking questions," he whispered, "about the men who came here." Sophia didn't answer. She couldn't. Her thoughts were trapped inside that folded piece of paper in her apron pocket. Luca frowned. "Sophia, you're scaring me. What's going on? Who was that man?" She hesitated, looking at him, torn between trust and fear. Then she said softly, "He knew my mother." Luca's brow furrowed. "Your mother?" But before he could finish, the doorbell chimed. A tall woman in a gray trench coat entered, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes were sharp, observant, like someone used to reading danger in the air. She flashed a badge. "Inspector Carla Rinaldi, Organized Crime Division." Luca stiffened. Sophia's heart skipped. "I'm here," the inspector said calmly, "about the incident yesterday. The man you served, Leonardo Marino." Sophia's fingers gripped the counter. The name felt heavy now, dangerous to even speak aloud. "Do you know him personally?" the inspector asked. Sophia shook her head. "No, he was just a customer." The inspector studied her face carefully, then glanced around. "He's a man with history, Miss Rossi. A name whispered in places most people never want to visit." Sophia forced a small nod, pretending calm. "I don't know anything about that." The inspector sighed. "If you see him again, don't talk to him. Don't help him. For your own sake." Then, almost as an afterthought, she placed a card on a counter. "If you remember anything, call me." And just like that, she left. But as the door closed, something in Sophia's chest twisted, because in the inspector's eyes she'd seen something else. Recognition. Like she already knew who Sophia's mother was. That evening, when the cafe was empty again, Sophia took out the old photograph. Her mother's face smiled softly up at her, frozen in time. She traced her fingers along the edge, whispering, Lucia de Luca. Why did you hide from this name? Then, something caught her eye. Under the thin layer of the paper's edge, part of the photograph had peeled slightly. She tugged at it carefully and found a second layer of paper beneath, a hidden note. It read, If you're reading this, it means the past has found you. Go to the old chapel by the sea. Ask for Father Miro. He knows the truth about the blue lily. Her pulse quickened. The blue lily, the same tattoo her mother and Leonardo shared. The same symbol that had drawn death into her cafe. Each step felt heavier. Every sound, the wind, the distant gulls, the crash of waves, seemed to whisper warnings. The chapel was half collapsed, swallowed by ivy and time. Yet a faint light flickered from inside. Sophia hesitated, then pushed open the creaking wooden door. An old man turned from the altar, thin, frail, his white hair hallowed by the candlelight. Father Miro? She asked softly. He looked up slowly, and the moment he saw her, his eyes widened in shock. You, he whispered. You have her eyes. Sophia froze. You knew my mother? He nodded, trembling slightly. Lucia di Luca. I baptized you, child. Before she disappeared. Her heart pounded. Please tell me the truth. Who was she? The priest sighed and sat down on the wooden pew, his hands trembling as he spoke. Lucia was no ordinary woman, he said. She worked for them. For the same people who marked their skin with the blue lily. It was their sign, a vow of silence and loyalty. But Lucia, she broke that vow. Sophia's voice cracked. Why? Because she fell in love with a man she wasn't supposed to. Leonardo Marino. The name hit Sophia like a thunderclap. Her mother and Leonardo? She tried to save him, Father Miro continued, his voice softening. When the betrayal happened, she took the blame. She ran, changed her name, hid you from that world. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. And my father? The old priest looked away. No one knows. Some say he died that night. Others believe he never stopped looking for her. A long silence followed. Then he reached into his robe and pulled out a small silver locket. She left this with me for you. Said you'd come one day. Sophia opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a faded picture, her mother and Leonardo, smiling together under a Sicilian sky. And behind the image, tiny etched letters. For S, when the truth is safe. Her breath caught. She knew I'd find this? Father Miro nodded. Your mother knew the past can only stay buried for so long. As Sophia left the chapel, the sky had turned dark. The wind carried the scent of rain again. She wrapped her coat tighter, clutching the locket. But just as she reached the road, a black car rolled to a stop ahead of her. The window lowered slowly. Leonardo sat inside. His eyes looked tired, haunted, but softer than before. Sophia, he said quietly, you shouldn't have come here. Her voice trembled. You lied to me. You said you didn't know what happened to her. I didn't, he said. Not until today. He held up a folded letter. This was sent to me this morning. From someone who shouldn't know where I live. He handed it to her through the window. Inside, written in the same trembling handwriting as the note on the photograph, were the words, She's alive, but not for long. Find the blue lily before they do. The rain began to fall again, heavy, fast, relentless. Sophia stared at Leonardo. What does that mean? Who's after her? He looked out toward the horizon, where thunder cracked over the sea. The same men who came to the cafe. They think Lucia betrayed them. They never stopped hunting her. And now, they'll come for you. Sophia's heart pounded. Then help me find her. Leonardo hesitated, torn between duty and emotion. You don't understand what you're asking. If she's alive, she doesn't want to be found. Not by me. Then by me, Sophia said firmly. She's my mother. The determination in her eyes, the same fire Lucia once had, made him close his eyes and whisper, You sound just like her. He sighed, defeated. All right. Tomorrow, I'll take you where it all began, Palermo. Sophia looked down at the locket again. The candlelight from the chapel still flickered behind her, reflecting in the silver. Palermo, she repeated softly, the city her mother swore she'd never return to. She didn't know what waited there, truth, betrayal, or something worse. But she knew one thing. Whatever her mother had done, it was big enough to make men kill for it. As the car drove off into the dark, the storm raged louder, like the heavens themselves warning her to turn back. But it was too late. The truth was already unfolding, and somewhere in the shadows of Palermo, someone was waiting for her arrival. The photograph led her to a chapel. The locket led her to the truth. And now, the road would lead her straight into the heart of the past her mother tried to bury. But every secret uncovered comes with a price. Sophia and Leonardo walked side by side, their breaths visible in the cold night air. Every step through the narrow alleys brought memories and danger with it. Leonardo's hand brushed hers. Not a touch of comfort, but a warning. The men who hunted your mother, they never stopped, he murmured. Tonight, you'll see why she ran, why she changed everything to protect you. Sophia's heart pounded. Everything. All these years, her mother had lived in silence to keep her safe. They arrived at a small, abandoned villa near the old harbor. Leonardo produced a key and opened a rusted door. Inside, walls were lined with photographs, letters, and old newspaper clippings, traces of a life erased. Sophia stepped closer. Her eyes fell on one photograph. It was her mother, young and fierce, standing next to Leonardo. Her tattoo was clear, the blue lily glowing under the flash of a camera. I thought you were gone, Leonardo whispered, eyes glistening. She sacrificed everything, every life she touched, every connection, all to protect you. Sophia turned to him, tears streaking her cheeks. Why? Why hide it all from me? He shook his head. Because the truth is dangerous. They would have killed anyone who knew. And that includes you. Suddenly, a shadow moved outside. A figure stepped into the moonlight. A man with a scar across his cheek. Leonardo Marino, the man growled. You think you can hide her from us? You think her daughter can run from the past? Sophia froze. The past had finally caught up. Leonardo stepped in front of her. Stay behind me. The man's eyes flicked to Sophia. You're the daughter of the blue lily, the one she tried to protect. You're everything she fought for. And now, you are the key. Sophia swallowed her fear. In that moment, she realized something powerful. She carried her mother's courage, her strength, her will. I am her daughter, Sophia said, voice steady, and I will not let her sacrifices be in vain. The man hesitated. Leonardo moved, ready to fight, but Sophia stepped forward, holding up the locket. This is not just a story of the past, she said. It's proof that the truth will survive, and we will survive with it. The man blinked, unsure. Then, slowly, he backed away into the shadows. The first rays of sun broke over the city. Sophia and Leonardo watched the harbor, silent. Sophia opened the locket again. Her mother's face smiled back at her, fierce and tender. I understand now, Sophia whispered. She did it all for me, and I will honor her. Leonardo put a hand on her shoulder. The past is still dangerous, he said, but together we'll face it. We'll protect her legacy. Some secrets stay hidden for decades. Some truths are too dangerous to speak aloud. But love, courage, and sacrifice, they always find a way to survive. And the daughter of the blue lily had just begun her story.